Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Rochelle and I read a variety of books. As the thumbnail said and the title, I am adding another bingo board to my year. I'm probably already doing 3 or 4 different reading challenges, and honestly I can't stop. So many of these reading challenges just look like so much fun, and with a lot of these different bingo boards that I'm doing, it's always my hope that I'll potentially go and read more books off of my shelves, because as you see, I have a lot of books. I have over 1,000 books at this point and can technically be considered a library, which is really cool, but I also really do need to read a lot of these books. And with these reading challenges, it's always my hope to just go and read more books and focus on picking up books off of my shelves. So when I saw Sarah created another bingo board, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this one because it seems like so much fun, but also extremely difficult. So the bingo board that she made recently is the Broad Reader Bingo Board, and this one has different genres, so it's not just focusing on horror like her other bingo board is. And I'll have her video down in the description below if you'd like to go and join and do this. But honestly, this one took me such a long time, especially some of the different columns, so we'll see which ones I pick. As always, these are always subject to change, but for right now, these are the ones that I'm gravitating towards. So first column on the board is for horror, and the first one is disability rep. I'm always excited to go and read more books that have disability rep in it, and one of the books that I actually picked out is one that I do have on a different board, so I was trying to see what I could do that could go and cross off multiple spaces on each of the bingo boards that I'm doing. So the one that I'm going to do for this spot is I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong. This one has cystic fibrosis representation in it, and I believe there's a paranormal piece in this one that has definitely intrigued me, and I really do want to check this one out. So I'm excited to put this one on this spot, and like I said, it will also cross off another spot on a different bingo board that I'm doing as well. So that always scratches a little itch when I can go and check off multiple boxes. Then the spot after that is one word title, and I have Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt, and this one is also a very paranormal one. I believe it also is a little bit on the scarier side. I've been so curious about this book, and this one also is on another bingo board as well. I wasn't able to do this with too many books, but at least with the horror ones, those I was able to go and double up on things, so that was really nice. Then for chapter titles, this one at first was a little bit tricky because some of the books that I was picking up didn't have actual chapter titles. Some of them had names for the chapter titles, and I just felt like that was a little bit too cheaty. I wanted something that actually had more words and more of a description and everything. So the one that I'm going to go with for this spot is We Came to Welcome You by Vincent Tirado. This is actually one that I have my eyes on to go and read for Pride Month, and I have really been curious about this one. I meant to read it when it first came out, and that just didn't end up happening. Time got away from me. So this one I'm very excited for, and just so you can get a little bit of an idea, it does have chapter titles. So this one says The Fall. We also have The Moving. They're not super descriptive titles for the chapters, but just enough that I feel like, yeah, I really want to know what's happening with this. Then the next spot underneath that on the board is Neon Colors on the cover, and I decided to go with The Dead of Summer by Ryan LaSala. It says, don't move, don't blink, don't breathe. I was really drawn to this cover because I thought it looked so beautiful. I'm always guilty of covers that have like a person's face and some sort of nature piece on it. I just always am drawn to those books. I just love them so much. They're so cool, and in this case very creepy. But this one has neon colors, at least with like the title of the book. So I'm really excited to go and check this one out. I feel like I'm probably gonna read this one maybe during the summertime, but we'll see. And then last book on the horror column is Isolated Setting. And this one I just had the pick of my bookshelves. This is definitely something that I really love with a lot of my books, and a lot of the books that I've been in the mood for are kind of more of like the apocalyptic ones where the world falls apart and there's some sort of catastrophe that's happening. And when I was looking, I was like, you know what? I think I want to read Swarm for this one by Jennifer D. Lyle. So with this one, it kind of seems like there's this killer butterfly type of thing, and this group of friends have to go and secure themselves in this house. And I'm just so curious on this one. I think it's so creepy and eerie, especially with this mouth in this butterfly. I don't know. I feel like I don't know anyone that has read this one, so I'm excited to go into this without any prior expectations with it. Moving on to the sci-fi column, this was one that honestly was so difficult for me. I don't always gravitate towards sci-fi books. They're kind of ones that I'm more meh on. I love horror and I love fantasy, but sci-fi is one that I'm just never really in the mood for. I'm a huge nerd for anyone that's new to my channel, and one nerdy thing that I can't really get into for fandom is Star Wars. I've tried so many times and it just never worked for me. I'm not a sci-fi girly, but I really want to challenge myself with this bingo board. So I was looking at my shelves and I did find a lot of books that would work. So first one that we have here is for a non-human POV. And I decided to go with Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. And obviously because Annie is artificial intelligence, this works perfectly for this prompt. It's also not too thick of a read, which is also very nice for me. But I know that this book features a lot of like female rage and whatnot in it, which is something that I really do enjoy with a lot of my books. So I'm excited to finally go and check this one out. I know a lot of people talked very highly about this book, so this bingo board will definitely get me to finally go and pick this one up. After that, we have Unusual Time, and with this one, it basically had to be something that's not our typical timeline. So it could be a book where the main character time travels to the past, such as Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. But obviously I've already read that book, so it wasn't one that I could go and pick for this. And I was looking through my shelves and this one kind of felt like it could work. It might be a little bit more of a stretch because at least when I was checking for genres for it, it didn't seem like it really fit for sci-fi. But this one is called 59 Minutes by Holly Seddon. So with this one, it kind of seems like there is 59 minutes that people are able to go and do something before the world literally falls apart. I don't know if that means like the world is going to cease to exist after the 59 minutes. And maybe this is very much a stretch for this prompt, but right now, this is probably the best I can do, especially since the other books that would be options for me are ones that I've already read. So we'll see how this one goes, but if I'm reading it and it really feels like it doesn't fit the prompt, then I might have to pick something else. Next we have First Contact. So this is one where the book has to involve going and interacting with aliens, or I think some sort of creatures similar to aliens. And I decided to go with Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. With Octavia E. Butler, a lot of the books that she does write tend to be science fiction or involve science fiction to a certain extent. And with this one, it seems like our main character discovers that she's being held by a benevolent alien race that intervened in the human race's extinction. And I think with this, she basically is being relied on to keep the human race alive. So I feel like this one would work for First Contact as well, especially since she's having to interact with these aliens that basically killed off the human species. So hopefully this works as well. As you can tell, I really did have a lot of difficulty trying to find science fiction books on my bookshelves, especially since it's not something I gravitate towards. But I do really love Octavia E. Butler. Then the next one is to find a book with a game or competition element. This one was also one that I kind of felt like it could work. The Love Club by Leo Min. I do have this one on Sarah's horror bingo board as well, so another one that's going to cross off multiple spaces. But with this one, I believe the girls have to go back into this video game to go and rescue a friend after a bunch of years have passed. And when I read the description on the back, it kind of reminded me of Jumanji in a way, but make it more video games type of thing. So I'm excited to go and check this one out, and since it has that whole video game piece and the prompt does ask for a game or trials, I felt like this one could go and work for this prompt. And then last spot on the sci-fi part of the board was to find a book with sky or celestial cover. I decided to go with A Martian by Andy Weir. I am also thinking of reading Project Hail Mary as well, so either one of these books I could easily go and fit for the prompt as well. But since I've had The Martian on my bookshelf for a really long time and haven't actually picked it up, I feel like this one could be great for this. So in some ways, I don't know if it's a stretch, but I feel like, you know, the background of this is probably the sky and the planet that our main character's on. So I feel like this would work. And obviously I haven't read this book, but I did watch the movie for this one and I really loved it. So I've always been curious to go and actually read the book and just kind of compare and see what the differences are. So hopefully we can go and pick this one up for the bingo board as well. Then the middle of the board is Mix It Up, and for this one it doesn't have to be a specific genre, but Sarah did say for hard mode, kind of going and doing different genres for each of the spots. So I did try to do that to the best of my ability. Some of them do have like fantasy and maybe some horror elements, but they also do have a mixture of other genres as well. So I felt like that was a great way to kind of make them differentiate from each other. And funny enough, this first spot on this column is genre blend. I decided to go with Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This one is a mixture of science fiction, fantasy, horror, all of those pieces. So I felt like this one was a perfect pick. I've also really wanted to go and read this book. I've been so curious about it, and I have a lot of friends that have nothing but good things to say about this book and this series in general, but also that it can be a little bit confusing. So that part has made me a little bit worried about picking it up, but we shall see. Then the next option was for a BIPOC author. This one was also super duper easy for me to go and choose from because I have a lot of BIPOC authors on my shelves, but one that I've been really wanting to pick up, especially for this year, is The Reformatory by Tiana Reeve Dew. This is one that I also have on the horror bingo board as well. So as you can see, I definitely have kind of merged a lot of my bingo boards just so that I can make things a little bit easier on myself. But this one I've had a lot of people also say nothing but good things about, as well as this author in general. And they've definitely been someone that is on my radar and that I really want to read more books by them. So this is going to be my gateway to finally going and achieving that. Next is a 2026 release, and I decided to go with The Impossible Garden of Clara Thorne by Summer N. England. This is an author that I first learned about through TikTok because I really enjoyed a lot of like her hobbity style videos and everything, and also she does a lot of theater. And when I found out that she was writing a book and it was actually going to be published, I was like, yep, nope, we're gonna go and pick this one up. This is also kind of a little bit of a cozy fantasy and sapphic, so this is a book that I do plan on reading during Pride Month as well. I felt like this would be perfect for the bingo board because I don't really have any cozy fantasies for this column. Next is a historical book, and the one I decided to go with is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This is one that I've really wanted to read, especially because it is a banned book, and reading banned books is something that is incredibly important to me, not only to go and talk about these books and bring them to the attention of others, but also just to go and broaden the types of books that I read as well. And this one is very much a classic, but I do know that there's quite a few trigger warnings in it, and some of the triggers are ones that bother me, so I'll have to definitely go and check my mental health when I do go and read this book. But this is a historical one, and it is one that I've been really wanting to pick up. So yeah, I felt like this would be perfect to go and have on the spot on the board. I have this huge stack right next to me, and hopefully it doesn't fall, but we shall see. And then last spot is I needed to pick a book that a friend or social media has recommended, and I felt like this one would be absolutely perfect for this spot, which is Half City by Kate Golden. When I went and participated in Realmathon, basically everyone was going and talking about this book. It was all over the place, and the thing that really drew me to this book was when it was compared to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Winx Club, and also Scooby-Doo. It just really intrigued me because those are a lot of shows that I really loved growing up, and I'm someone that just really enjoys nostalgia, especially as someone that is 30 and just wants to kind of have that whimsiness brought back and a lot of that stuff that brought me joy. So I'm excited to read this one, and I know the next book comes out later this year, so this felt absolutely perfect and also would help eliminate a lot of the FOMO that I felt a few months ago. So now I have an excuse to go and read this instead of delaying things. Moving on to the fantasy column, this was another one that was super easy. I have a lot of fantasy books. I feel like I've always said in the past that I tend to not gravitate towards them, but at the same time, I always find that I do read a lot of them, so I don't know. I feel like I'm living in my own other world when it comes to this stuff, ironically, because it's fantasy, yeah. But first spot is finish a 3+ book series. So I tend to have issues with reading series. I always pick up one book and then immediately jump to another series. But with a lot of the ones that I was thinking of that I've already started, they're duologies, and none of them have multiple books in the series. So I decided, hey, we're just going to start another series, just continue on with the trend that I constantly am doing. And I'm going to go with Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This one has 3 books in the series and has been one that I've heard a lot of people talk about and have a lot of really good things to say. So I have been really curious to actually check it out, and it is a decently sized book, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is kind of my pick at the moment for this spot. Then the next spot is Weapon on the Cover. This is also something that is always so easy to pick, especially with fantasy. There's usually always a weapon on the cover of these books. So I went with Everking by L.J. Andrews. My friend Becca from Gemini Pages talked about this book, and she really loved it and raved about it. So I went and picked up this book from Pango, and I have been really needing an excuse to go and read this one. So I think this is going to be my option for Weapon on the Cover. Next is a book that has 500+ pages, and if you've seen some of my previous videos, you might have an idea of which book I'm going to pick for this one, and that is The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. I have been needing to read this book because of my TBR game, aka Defend the TBR. And Nugget, my dog, she ended up going and picking this book, and I've just been dragging my feet because it's such a chunky book, but also so beautiful. And just the character art and everything for this book has made me want to pick it up, but I've just always talked myself out of it. So I'm just living in this little delusional area where I'm like, hey, if I go and put this book on as many challenges as possible, maybe that will finally convince me to go and actually read this book. So let's go and add it to another bingo board, and maybe this will finally push me to go and read this book and pick it up. Maybe you need to yell at me in the comments as well to say that, like, hey, Rochelle, read this book finally. Come on. Stop dragging your feet. And then we needed to go and pick a book that had an assassin or a warrior main character. I decided to go with To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast. This was one book that was an anticipated read for me. I heard a lot of people also raving about this book, and it has a bounty hunter main character, which I feel like does really work for this prompt. So we'll see how this goes, but she is just so beautiful. And honestly, this is like one of my most beautiful books on my shelves. And I really want to go and read this one, especially since I've been in such a dystopian mood. And then last book on the fantasy column is Elemental Word in the Title. I'm gonna go with Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. So it does have like flame, which is related to fire and everything, so I feel like this would go and work. I've been really needing to go and read this book, and now that I think about it, this one also is, I think, in a 3 or 4 book series, but I don't think the 4th book is out yet, so technically this one wouldn't work for the other prompt because I think it has to be finishing a series. I'm just getting into all these other tangents, but yeah, this is going to be the book that I'm picking for the last spot on the fantasy column. And then last column on the board is Lit Fic, and this was probably another one that gave me the hardest time. I had to Google to see if I had any books potentially that would be on my shelves, because when I was looking through some of these prompts, I was like, I can't think of anything, and I'm not sure if some of these books would work. So Google was definitely my best friend for a lot of this stuff. So first one we have is Prize Winner, and unfortunately with a lot of this column, I didn't have a lot of books that were on my shelves, so these are going to be ones that I either decide to pick up through Libby or actually get a copy for myself, because a few of them are ones that I really do want to read. And I decided to go with James by Percival Everett. This is one that a lot of people had nothing but great things to go and talk about, and at first it was one where I was like, I don't know if I want to read it because the cover itself didn't really draw me in. I am such a sucker when it comes to judging a book by its cover. I try not to do that, but I fail at it horribly. But hearing other people go and talk about it and telling me more about the story and how much they enjoyed it, I was like, nope, okay, this is a book that I actually do want to read, which is one of the many reasons why I love BookTube, because you always do learn about new books that might not have been on your radar. So that is the one that I'm going to pick for this spot. The next one is a classic, and this one I'm going to go with Rebecca. This is a book that I've been really wanting to read, and I want to have a physical copy of this book. And the past times that I've gone to used bookstores, they never have an edition of it. It's always out. So I'm planning on doing a little treat yourself bookstore date. And so I'm gonna see if I can go and pick up a copy of that book so that I can finally get the chance to read it physically. Then the next spot is a cover pick, and I'm kind of between two different books. One of them is Animal Farm by George Orwell, and then the other is 1984 by George Orwell. Both of these books are banned books, and honestly, I really like the covers. They're kind of simple, but the images on them have always drawn me to them, especially 1984, just with the eye. It's just so captivating, and I always love the different editions that I see of this book. So these are the two that I'm kind of bouncing back and forth with. Animal Farm is a lot of a quicker read. It's a lot thinner, so this one could be one that I pick up the last minute if I haven't had the chance to do this spot yet, or I could also do 1984. We'll see, but right now these are the two that I'm really gravitating towards for the cover pick. Then the next spot is Unusual Format, and this one I feel like is a little bit of a stretch as well. I just wasn't really drawn to a lot of the different books that I was seeing as recommendations. So this one, like I said, is a little bit of a stretch, but it's Is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. This is one that I got as an ARC, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and it doesn't have this a lot throughout it, but there's a few portions where there's letters that are being written, and I know that when Sarah was giving some examples, she did go and say like letters and whatnot as examples. The thing is, like, this book doesn't have that a lot. It does have like some text messages here and there, but the book isn't written solely in a different format. So that's why I feel like this one is a bit of a stretch, but I have been really curious to check it out. I know that this one also has like a huge mental health piece as well. So this is one that I have to check to make sure I'm doing okay before I pick it up, so I don't get into a little bit of a funk or a low moment. And then last spot on this board is Coming of Age, and I decided to go with Kin. This was another book that Sarah had mentioned in her recommendations video when she was talking about her bingo board, and I totally forgot about this one. This was one that was also on my radar, and I've been really wanting to read it. So this kind of gave me a perfect opportunity to go and pick this book up as well. But yeah, I'm excited for this board, but also incredibly nervous because it does have some genres that I don't necessarily gravitate towards. But as this bingo board is called, it is a broad reading bingo. So this is really to help push us to kind of get out of the normal books that we usually read and gravitate towards. So I do really like this and how it's going to expand my reading and get me to pick up books that I've been dragging my feet on. But if you are doing this bingo board as well, I'd definitely like to know down in the comments below. And if you have any books that you think I might like and could do for the bingo board, please let me know as well. I'm always open to different book recommendations and seeing if I might gravitate to those books instead of some of the ones that I picked. I'm really excited for this, also incredibly nervous, but if you got to this point of the video and you don't know what to comment but want to say you are here, maybe go and leave a cat, because there's a cat on this book for Is This a Cry for Help. And if you like these videos and if you want to keep up with my channel, please consider going and subscribing and possibly liking. That always goes and helps out my channel and my videos, and also leaving a hype as well. That just helps go and promote my channel to other people that might not have been on this tiny corner of the internet before. But as always, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and I always wrap up my videos with this little reminder to always remember that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye, friends. You are picking on your brother, and that is mean. Yeah. One of her brothers is on a blanket by the window, and she was starting to pull the blanket off of there. She can be such a bully. She's really cute, but such a bully.